She doesn't choose the man who wants her the most. She chooses the man she fears losing the most. That sentence alone breaks most men, because deep down, you've probably done everything right. You cared, you gave effort, you showed consistency, and still, she drifted towards someone who gave her less, someone who seemed colder, harder to read, and somehow more valuable. You see, attraction isn't born in comfort, it's born in tension, that quiet, invisible pull between what she understands and what she can't control. A woman may say she wants a nice guy, but her biology whispers something older, something primal. Find the man who cannot be conquered. Most men fail because they try to win a woman's heart through compliance, through trying to be the safest, most available option. But women don't choose safety. They seek significance. The man she chooses is not always the one who offers the most, but the one who withholds what every other man gives too freely, his validation. This isn't about manipulation, it's about magnetism, the kind that can't be faked because it's rooted in your energy, your purpose, and your ability to walk away without resentment. When a man masters detachment, his presence becomes rare, and in a world drowning in attention, rarity is irresistible. Here's what most men don't understand. Women live in a constant state of social abundance. Every post she uploads, every glance she receives, it's a silent reinforcement that she has options. But even with all that attention, most of it means nothing to her, because deep down, she's not searching for many men. She's searching for one man who makes her feel something she can't easily explain. That's the Machiavellian edge, not evil, not deceit, but psychological awareness. You don't compete by doing more, you compete by doing less, strategically. When every other man floods her with attention, you create silence. When others rush to please, you calmly observe. When she tests your boundaries, you don't react, you reveal. Because in that moment, your calm becomes her chaos. She begins to feel something she hasn't felt in a long time: uncertainty. And uncertainty, my friend, is the birthplace of desire. Every time she wonders, why isn't he chasing me? Does he even like me? What's going on in his mind? She's thinking about you. That's power, not from ego, but from emotional control. Machiavellian psychology isn't about dominance. It's about understanding the hidden game most men ignore, the game of perception, timing, and emotional leverage. A man who understands this doesn't manipulate. He orbits differently. He becomes unpredictable in a way that forces her to pay attention. Because when a woman feels like she's figured you out, she stops investing. But when she feels like you're still a mystery, when you hold depth, silence, and self-possession, she can't help but lean in. Remember this, she doesn't crave constant reassurance. She craves emotional significance, the feeling that you are not one of many, but one above many. And that power doesn't come from charm, looks, or money. It comes from mastering yourself. The man she chooses isn't the loudest. He's the calmest storm in her world. He doesn't need her to feel complete. That's why she feels incomplete without him. When a woman has many options, she stops looking for attention. She starts looking for alignment. She wants to feel something that no amount of likes, compliments, or validation can give her. The emotional gravity of a man who moves with purpose. Because a man with purpose doesn't orbit around her. He orbits around himself. His time has weight. His silence has presence. And his energy carries a quiet confidence that says, I am not waiting to be chosen. I am the one who decides who gets access. That's the mindset shift most men never make. They beg to be selected, while the man who truly understands feminine psychology positions himself as the prize. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. You stop auditioning, you stop convincing, you stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned that privilege. And something strange happens when you do. Her behavior begins to shift. Suddenly, she's more attentive. She texts differently. She starts initiating contact. Why? Because your emotional detachment unsettles her. You've changed the dynamic, from her being the evaluator to her being evaluated. Understand this. Women don't fall for men who make them feel comfortable. They fall for men who make them feel curious. Curiosity is the bridge between attraction and obsession. But to create curiosity, you must first master contrast. When every other man is predictable, you become unpredictable. When others seek validation, you remain composed. When she expects praise, you give silence. When she assumes control, you let her feel your absence. That emotional push and pull awakens her feminine instinct to chase what feels scarce and protect what feels uncertain. Machiavellian psychology teaches one core truth: people value what they struggle to understand. The harder it is to define you, the more deeply you occupy her thoughts. That's why mystery isn't manipulation, it's strategy. It gives her space to imagine, and imagination is stronger than any words you could say. Every woman, no matter how strong, independent, or desired, still wants to feel chosen, but not by just any man, by the man. The one who stands out without trying. The one whose validation feels like a reward, not a routine. The one whose attention feels earned. You don't achieve this by pretending to be distant. You achieve it by being deeply present, but selectively. When you're with her, your focus is undivided. But when you're gone, you disappear completely. No half availability, no emotional breadcrumbs, just discipline. And that discipline is what breaks her mental pattern, because most men, when they sense her pulling away, panic. They chase, they text, they call, they explain. But the man who understands emotional power does the opposite. He pauses, he observes, he lets silence do the talking. That silence triggers something ancient. It reminds her of what's at risk. Because when a man with emotional self-control steps back, she feels the void, and that void becomes a mirror, forcing her to ask herself, what if I lose him? That's the question that shifts power. And notice, you didn't have to manipulate. You didn't lie, guilt, or beg. You simply embodied what every woman secretly respects, a man who cannot be emotionally swayed by her behavior. That's Machiavellian in the purest form, not cruelty, but control. Control of your emotions, your attention, your availability, and your energy. Because the truth is, the one who controls the tempo of connection controls the outcome. Here's the truth no one tells men: women don't want to be convinced, they want to feel compelled. And the moment you try to convince her, you've already lost power, because persuasion is what the weak use when they've run out of gravity. Real attraction doesn't come from words, it comes from energy, from the subtle way you move, speak, and withhold. You can't force emotional investment, but you can engineer it, not through deceit, but through psychological awareness. The key? Let her believe she's the one choosing you, while every part of the interaction is being quietly directed by your control of rhythm and contrast. It begins with emotional pacing. Most men rush, they overshare, overinvest, over-explain. They remove mystery before it has time to grow roots. But a man who understands emotional leverage doesn't move fast. He lets her curiosity mature. He speaks with pauses. He reveals less than he feels. He creates small gaps in communication, gaps her mind rushes to fill. And in that space, she starts imagining you, analyzing you, thinking about what you mean. That mental activity is investment, because the more she thinks, the deeper you sink. Women don't fall for what's obvious. They fall for what's uncertain. When she's sure she has you, she relaxes. But when she senses that you could walk away at any moment and still be perfectly fine, her emotional focus narrows on you. You become the question her mind keeps replaying. Machiavellian psychology calls this controlled unpredictability. It's the art of staying emotionally stable while creating mild psychological tension. Not anxiety, not games, just unpredictability. She can't quite read your next move, and that unpredictability makes her emotionally alert. When she can't predict you, she must pay attention to you, and attention is the first form of emotional investment. But here's the paradox. She must never feel like she's under your control. She must feel like she's the one making the choices. That's the brilliance of psychological influence. It's invisible. You set the stage, but she believes she wrote the script. You lead without announcing it. So how do you do that? You mirror her energy just below her intensity. If she's distant, you become slightly more distant. If she leans in, you meet her halfway. This creates an emotional rhythm, a push and pull that feels natural, not forced. Over time, she begins to calibrate her energy around yours. Without realizing it, you've become her emotional thermostat. And once you become the reference point for how she feels, you've already won her loyalty. Because now, her emotions are reacting to you. She's invested, not just in your presence, but in how your absence makes her feel. Every message she sends, every thought she has, is a subconscious attempt to close the gap you created. That's how she bonds. Not because you overwhelmed her with affection, but because you left just enough uncertainty for her to chase clarity. Understand this, in a world where every man is trying to win her, you must make her feel like she's earning you. That emotional reversal is everything. It triggers her pride, her curiosity, her desire, all at once. She stops wondering, does he like me? And starts wondering, what does he see in me? And when a woman starts asking that question, she begins to compete for your approval, not out of ego, but out of emotional necessity. That's how you make her choose you, not through pressure, through presence, not by chasing, by creating gravity. Every woman, no matter how many choices she has, will always be drawn to one thing: emotional safety inside masculine certainty. Not the safety that comes from softness, but the safety that comes from stability. A man who cannot be shaken by her moods, her silence, or her beauty. A man who remains the same, even when she tries to test him. You have to understand something most men never do. Attraction is born in uncertainty, but love and loyalty are sealed in consistency. A woman will test you with chaos to find out if your calm is real. She will challenge your boundaries, not because she wants to break them, but because she needs to know they exist. When you stay grounded through that, when your tone stays calm, your actions steady, your decisions firm, she starts to relax into you. That's when loyalty begins, because deep down, every feminine heart wants to rest in the strength of a man she can trust not to crumble. Machiavellian psychology teaches that true power isn't in control. It's in response. The man who reacts emotionally gives power away. The man who responds with patience holds it. Women read your composure like a language. When you stay still while others would explode, she feels something ancient stir inside her. Respect. Respect is the foundation of desire. Once she respects you, everything else, attraction, admiration, loyalty, flows naturally. But here's the twist. Most men ruin it when they finally get her attention. They overinvest, they get attached to her validation, and they lose the very energy that made her want them in the first place. Mystery. You must protect your mystery even in closeness. Not by hiding, but by living. Continue to evolve, continue to grow. Keep your focus on your mission, not her reactions. The more you feed your purpose, the more magnetic you become. Because the masculine energy that inspires loyalty is the one that moves forward with or without her. When a woman realizes that you're not waiting for her approval, that your life has depth and meaning beyond her, she starts investing more just to stay relevant in your world. That's when she begins to mirror your effort, to fight for your attention instead of expecting it. And that shift is everything. But this isn't about pretending not to care, it's about caring intelligently. Showing emotion without losing control. You can express interest, but never dependence. You can give affection, but never abandon your discipline. Because the moment she senses that your world revolves around her, she subconsciously steps back to test your balance. And if you fail that test, if you chase, overreact, or beg for her reassurance, she'll start to see you as replaceable. Not because she's cruel, but because women instinctively pull away from weakness. The feminine can't follow what it doesn't respect. So instead, you remain calm. You smile when she withdraws. You stay composed when she's distant. You don't punish her with silence. You reward her with patience. You give her the space to miss you, to question herself, to realign. That's not manipulation. It's leadership. Because true masculine leadership doesn't demand loyalty. It inspires it. It makes her want to choose you. Not out of fear, but out of recognition that you offer what no one else can: emotional depth and unwavering stability in a chaotic world. And once a woman feels that, truly feels that, every other option fades into noise. You become her emotional home, the one man she can't replace because she never fully figured you out and never had to. Here's the paradox every man must understand. When you finally become the kind of man every woman wants, you stop needing her to choose you. Because at that point, you've already chosen yourself. And that, more than any words or gestures, is what makes her stay. See, you can't make a woman choose you through effort alone. You make her choose you through energy, through the quiet, unspoken certainty that radiates from a man who no longer fears loss. When you no longer fear losing her, she feels it. It's in your voice, your posture, your timing. You stop moving from desperation and you start moving from direction. That's the Machiavellian paradox. Detachment creates devotion. Because nothing holds a woman's attention like a man who could love her deeply and still walk away if his peace is compromised. That balance of heart and discipline is the rarest combination in the modern world. Women are surrounded by men who either worship them or resent them. Few stand in the middle, calm, grounded, and self-led. Those men are unforgettable because they don't project need, they project presence. When he speaks, he's not trying to convince. When he listens, he's not performing empathy. Everything about him says, I'm complete, and I choose to share my completeness, not beg for connection. That's the kind of energy that breaks her patterns. It pulls her out of the noise of constant attention and forces her to slow down, to notice you, to think. Because in a world where everyone is chasing, you're standing still, not from laziness, but from power. Here's the real secret. She doesn't fall in love with what you give her. She falls in love with how she feels about herself when she's around you. If your energy makes her feel grounded, feminine, desired, and safe, you win her heart without fighting for it. But if your energy makes her feel like she has power over you, she'll start to lose attraction even if she still cares. Women crave polarity. They want a man who can make them feel, not a man who melts under pressure. So your job isn't to chase her approval, it's to maintain your emotional gravity. That gravity doesn't come from arrogance or indifference. It comes from knowing who you are, what you value, and what you will not tolerate. When you operate from that foundation, everything changes. You'll notice her language shift. She starts saying things like, "You're different, I can't read you, I feel calm around you." Those aren't random compliments. Those are signs that you've entered her emotional bloodstream. She's feeling what most women rarely feel, the security of strength. That's when choosing you stops being an option. It becomes instinct. Because now she's not drawn to you just for attraction. She's anchored to you through respect. And respect, once formed, is nearly impossible to erase. So understand this. The greatest power isn't in getting women to choose you. It's in becoming the man who never loses himself while being chosen. That's where freedom lives. That's where desire endures. That's where the game ends. Not in control, but in mastery. You don't need to chase, convince, or perform. You just need to be. Because when you stand in quiet strength, every feminine instinct around you will recognize it and act accordingly. Remember, attraction begins with tension, deepens with mystery, and lasts through respect. Keep those three alive, and you'll never have to beg for love again. Question for you. When she had options, did you compete for her attention, or did you make her compete for your energy? Drop your answer in the comments. If this hit deep, like the video. Subscribe for more raw truths about female psychology and the modern man's mindset. And share this with a friend who needs to hear it tonight, because becoming the man she truly chooses starts with becoming the man who never chases.